that's an idea. Now that's an idea. Now that's an idea. Now that's an idea.
So kia ora and welcome to Now That's an Idea, Tairawhiti's home of good ideas. And today I'm joined by the lovely Ngahuia Mita from Tairawhiti Waka. So, how are you? What's going on?
Kia ora, Jack, and kia ora everybody watching and listening. Good, thank you. And yeah, awesome to be on today, having a kōrero about our waka.
Yeah, so before we kind of talk about more in depth, are you a sailor? How did you get into this?
Yep, I am a kaumana on board our waka. That's our term we use for crew or sailors. And myself, I've got a waka ama background. So like many of us around Te Tairawhiti, grew up paddling up and down the Tūranga Nui and the Waimata. And then sort of found my way into waka haurua mahi when I was down actually at university down south in Otipoti, Dunedin. Got the opportunity to sail on a waka haurua at that time named Haunui, and that was from Rapaki down near Littleton up home here to Gizzy. Yeah, that was my first sort of window into waka haurua, and now, yeah, I'm a kaumana on board Tairawhiti. We'll be coming up 8 years this year, having our waka here in our community.
Just yesterday, I've started sailing lessons. So just like on a little laser, but I'm in Auckland down in like Point Chev. And my gosh, it is so much fun being on the water. And I think, Polynesians coming to New Zealand and a lot of Pākehā coming to New Zealand, we're kind of like, we've got boats in the ocean in our blood, so it feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good buzz.
Yeah. So I think like a good way we could start this conversation is kind of with a simple question, but it's probably got a complex answer. What is Tairawhiti Waka? What's its point in being, and what is it? What's its function?
Yeah, good pātai. So Tairawhiti Waka is a 72-foot double-hulled sailing canoe, ocean voyaging waka. And as I said, our waka will be coming up 8 years this year. So launched in 2017 up in Tamaki Makaurau over there at Green Hive. And basically, Tairawhiti Waka is a continuation of our voyaging whakapapa. So it's more or less a modern day rendering of the double-hulled canoes that our tipuna would have arrived on here in Te Tairawhiti and across Aotearoa. And the kaupapa, I guess, around Tairawhiti Waka, we're all about growing future leaders and kaitiaki or guardians of our moana. And so the sort of vision, I guess, in building and launching Tairawhiti Waka nearly 8 years ago now. Originally, the idea was around being a floating classroom for our tamariki and rangatahi here in Te Tairawhiti. And over the years, I guess that's evolved into more so than just a floating classroom. I guess, just growing that leadership on the moana and trying to get back to some of the skills and attributes that our tipuna brought with them over here when they made their maiden voyages down.
Mm. Yeah, and personally, what do you think makes a waka such a good vessel for education and growth? Because obviously it's a great way to, a great vessel to travel on the water, but in this context, it's been used as something to connect with like culture and maybe challenge people. But why is it like the waka that you think, works really well in that function?
Another great pātai. There's a number of reasons, I guess, and I guess I could start with talking about physically. So physically, our waka, for those who may not be as familiar, as I said, double-hulled ocean voyaging canoe, and so even in that way, the arrangement of our waka haurua, it's two hulls that are lashed on using remnants of a traditional method of lashing. The a platform sort of deck, and then we have 2 masts and then a number of sails that we can rig up. So I guess in that way, it's often referred to a bit of a marae on the moana. The physical attributes of a waka make it a really awesome platform to be able to engage with and learn a whole range of things. And then obviously you have the whakapapa and cultural grounding of waka haurua and all of the practices that come along with it. And so I like to think our waka a really interesting window into the voyaging worlds of our tipuna. It's one of a small number of places really where we can really engage with, connect to some of the experiences our tipuna would have been having. As we know, the way we live on the whenua, on the land these days is a very long way from their lifeways and what they would have experienced. But when we're out there voyaging and sailing on the moana, it really gives us that sense of closeness with them, as we know, other than what's happening underneath the surface of the water, which is a whole nother wānanga. Te Moananui-a-Kiwa is a largely sort of untouched part of our world, and so when we're out there, certainly away from land, like I say, it gives you that unique window into being probably the closest you could be to what your tipuna were experiencing. And so in that way, there's a sort of a quote that is around the waka world that our waka are our biggest teachers. It's for many of those reasons I've just spoken about, culturally connecting us to our tipuna, what they would have been going through, their mātauranga, practices, protocols, etc. Also, obviously, the physical act of sailing and having to manage the canoe, understand the fullness of what goes into being able to sail a vessel. And then, as we are a modern day vessel as well, we obviously have many sort of rules and regulations that we're following in terms of a maritime aspect as well. So, just from that small sort of explanation, you can see that there's so many different things that can be learnt and gleaned from being part of a waka haurua, which is really cool also because not everybody will be super interested in perhaps, like star law and navigation, etc. Some people might be really intrigued by the technical sailing element. And so, yeah, I just believe it's truly a awesome space and place and vessel, as you've been learning, Jack, on the lasers, to learn a whole different range of skills. Also learn a lot about yourself in the process, which is, awesome as well.
Yeah, well, I think being on the ocean or the moana, you definitely you get a sense that you're very small. Like all of a sudden, how many likes you get on Instagram is not that important, and you kind of, in a way, feeling small makes you feel, more comfortable with yourself in the world. So I can imagine it'd be amazing for like mental health and a whole range of things. But yeah. So what kind of people are coming out? Like how is it like school students, or what's the main people joining on?
Yeah, so we've got a few different ways for people to be involved in the waka, and this is actually kind of a reoccurring question we get about how people can be involved. At the moment for Tairawhiti Waka, we run a bit of a seasonal calendar. So within that, what we've been doing consistently is having open crew training. So these are opportunities for anybody in our hapori, in our community, to come down and just get a small glimpse into what it is to be a volunteer crew member. So there's sort of that element of it, community focused, open up to anybody who's ever seen Tairawhiti and just thinks, oh man, I'd love to know more about that waka or be involved. We also do have education functions still within the community, and so at the moment what that looks like is we've sort of started almost a festival like week of events. So this year we ran that in May. And we got a number of kura groups down, and they worked their way through a number of different workshops connected to our waka. So we've got 2 smaller sailing vessels, or waka taurua, and we had the Star Compass there. We are fortunate to have some science kit on board, so we ran that as well. And then obviously being able to meet our waka. So those are kind of the main mahi we do and the ways in which people are involved. And that brings a whole colourful range of people. There's a saying that, like the waka chooses its crew, and so people are drawn to our kaupapa for many different reasons, and some stay and contribute and just love it and want to be involved and keep coming back, and then others will come and reconnect and then go away again when they need to as well. The other big mahi for us in our waka is obviously we're a fiberglass and wooden vessel, and so a lot of the time is spent by us, particularly our core crew, maintaining Tairawhiti as well. So a lot of maintenance work, sanding, looking after, cleaning, and just general, maintaining of the canoe, which is a really big job and some of the unseen, perhaps, work that goes into running a kaupapa like this.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of volunteer organizations around Tairawhiti. Is like people always see the result and they're like, it's easy, wicked. But there's actually like whole weekends of just mahi going on in the background. Oh,
Yeah.
now, did you say your first experience was down Otapoti, Dunedin? Did you sail from Dunedin to Tairawhiti? Did I get that right?
I sailed from Rapaki, which is just out of Littleton in Christchurch, up here to Tairawhiti. Yeah, the waka that I was on at that time, Honui, had been down the deep south visiting. Yeah, they came down to Dunedin and carried on down to Bluff across to Dakiura, and then made their way back up, and I jumped on in Rapaki and came home.
What was that like? Was it hairy being out on the ocean at points? Because I imagine you have to cross the Cook Strait.
Yeah, that particular part of it wasn't actually too bad. We were really fortunate back then to have a really good crossing. So, oh, sorry about that, everybody. But no, actually, for me, it was a like a life-changing experience. My first, large voyage and 5 days out on the moana. And that was the longest I'd actually been at sea. But I think a really cool element of waka haurua is that you're part of a larger kaupapa and whakapapa. And so for me, I never at any point felt in any way unsafe, if that makes sense. Although, that was the longest I'd spent out at sea. I think having that cultural connection and understanding really made me feel safe and looked after. And so I didn't even really think twice about it, which is pretty crazy, considering I had never been out on the moana for that amount of time. But I know a lot of people feel that way when they have undergo their first voyage, and I think that's a lot to do with that sort of spiritual element of feeling like you're connected to something much bigger than yourself, and so in that way someone else is looking out for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what does it feel like being, I don't know if you're just surrounded by water all the time. I can imagine it might feel a bit kind of foreign, but, just having blue everywhere? Or is it, you just felt like at home?
Yeah, a lot of the sailing that happens on board, like our waka and during that voyage that I spoke about, it is pretty coastal. So for a lot of it, you are able to see the coastline. So obviously, in that way, that probably gives you a level of safety as well. But there were points during that voyage, and there's definitely times when on the different canoes are doing open ocean voyages where you're not seeing land for long stretches of time. And I think it's just what you spoke about earlier around you realize how small we are in the larger scheme of life, and you do become comfortable with life out there on the moana. I guess people that haven't spent a lot of time out on the ocean or sailing or anything like that, it would be quite a foreign concept to be able to feel really comfortable out there. But once you've been out there over a couple of days, it does become sort of like home. And so I know for myself and for others that are voyagers, sailors, when you come back into land, there's like actually a big feeling of sadness coming back sort of into reality and into the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Because when you're out on the moana, none of that stuff, as you said, matters. And you do just really acclimatize to the motion and, vibe, I guess, of the moana, which is a really beautiful thing.
You can see how people just want to kind of run away on the ocean and just kind of get a boat and sail away because you don't have to pay
Absolutely.
rates, there's no rent, you're just sailing away, catch some fish, park up. So have you got any more voyages coming up, or what's the plans for you? Because you got I was reading online, you got a PhD in Otago, is that right? And then you kind of did your defense in Tairawhiti and
Yeah, so completed the PhD. That was actually on Tairawhiti Waka, and so that thesis is called Tairawhiti Waka Tairawhiti Tangata, and examining the voyaging philosophies of our tipuna. And so I guess the motivation for that work was to provide some of the evidence base for the mahi that we're doing, looking at and sort of pulling together a lot of the voyaging pūrākau that we have here in Te Tairawhiti as an opportunity really to share that with tamariki, rangatahi and anybody interested. I know for us growing up, lots of that corridor was segmented all around the place. So yeah, I wanted to do that to bring that together so that for us in our kaupapa on Tairawhiti, it's easily shared with our tamariki and rangatahi just to show them how awesome their tipuna were and that they can be like that too. And the other side of it was around sort of what you talked about, around the haurua benefits associated with sailing waka haurua. So for me personally, my next, I guess, voyage is coming over to work for the trust full time. So I've been awarded a research fellowship, which brings me to be able to work for Tairawhiti Voyaging Trust. And in that work, we'll be looking at what kaitiakitanga is in the context of waka haurua, following on, I guess, from what was in the PhD work. And so, yeah, that's my background as a researcher and my contribution, I guess, to the wider kaupapa. There's a number of awesome and amazing and beautiful things we know about the benefit of waka haurua for ourselves, for our hauora, and for our communities. And so, yeah, my role in that is just weaving together the stories around that. In terms of where we'll be heading, Tairawhiti Waka, so we have a biannual National Waka Haurua Festival. The next one of those will be taking place in Te Taitokiro, up north there, at Aurere, which is the site of Tahiki Nupumai Busby's whare and Star Compass. And so that will be the next sort of big voyage that our waka will be working towards, to join our other elder sibling waka and some younger siblings. We've got a few new waka out there in different communities across Aotearoa. And so, yeah, I'll be looking to be a part of that sail towards the end of next year.
so when's it happening, sorry?
It is, I don't believe the proper date's been set yet, but it'll be sometime in October of next year will be the festival.
Okay, I mean, I can just imagine being there surrounded by waka haurua would be crazy,
Yeah, yeah.
inspirational.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing that coming together of waka like that, and definitely arriving in that way to communities. We have a lot of pūrākau, obviously, stories that tell us that that happened in the time of our tipuna. And so when you do see that, and really for the home people, when they are able to stand on their takutai moana or on the beach there and see waka arriving, it is a pretty amazing sight. And cool for all of our different waka and waka crew to be there all together, knowing what each other's been through, perhaps to get to that point, and then, yeah, being able to share in that time together, celebrating sailing and waka kaupapa.
Yeah, and I think you need major events like that for getting through those kind of like Sunday mornings when you're just like sanding down a piece of wood and you're just like, oh God. Then you think, gotta look flash for, the
Yeah, absolutely.
well, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, I think it's just such an amazing kaupapa and we can get behind it because it just looks so beautiful down there in the harbour that, we need more people to know about it. Thanks so much.
Awesome. No, tēnā te mihi atu ki a koe, Jack, o tērā koutou whakarongo maina. Yeah, we're just really fortunate to be offered the opportunity by Jack to have a kōrero today and to share a little bit about our kaupapa. Anybody that's keen or interested, we have social media pages, Tairawhiti Waka. You can just look us up on Facebook and Instagram, and we're always sharing our sort of public opportunities to come down and be involved. So if that is something you guys are interested, no mai haere mai.
And I'll make sure I'll actually link to your PhD as well, because as someone who's done some research before, sometimes it feels like it just gets lost in some kind of library somewhere. So we'll link to that, because it sounds like amazing research that people would actually be interested in reading.
Awesome.
All right.
Now that's an idea.